My father, Lawrence Frank, and another uncle, Walter Vandekamp, founded our present company. As they grew up in Milwaukee, most of the Frank boys joined the family meat business. But Lawrence wanted something else for himself. He was very creative, an energetic young man full of ideas and dreams, and he wanted to make his mark on the world. As the youngest in his family, Lawrence was low man on the totem pole as far as the meat business was concerned, and he knew it was unlikely he'd ever get the chance to put his ideas into practice. So he set out for California to earn his success. The first job he found was as a salesman at the Pasadena Furniture Company. There he is on the left in 1914. Shortly before he left Milwaukee, he had become engaged to a pretty young woman named Henrietta Vandekamp. As soon as he found work, he sent for her. They were married and they made their first home in this little bungalow in Pasadena. Henrietta's brother, Theodore Vandekamp, came from Milwaukee soon after to visit. Theodore had saved up $200 and was looking for an opportunity. That was all Lawrence needed to hear. It instantly sparked an idea. Why didn't they become partners, my father suggested, and use Theodore's nest egg to open a store? They could call it Vandekamp's. The name would appeal to customers, applying a Dutch theme and one of meticulousness and cleanliness. And my father knew what they could sell, too. The potato chips his brother Ralph Frank was making in the small factory he'd set up in downtown Los Angeles. My dad was a natural salesman, and he did a good job of selling his idea to Theodore. In 1915, Vandekamp's Saratoga chip store opened on Spring Street in downtown Los Angeles. It was a tiny store, just 8 feet wide, and so small customers had to stand outside and make their purchases through a window in the door. Half of Theodore's savings went to pay for the first month's rent. It was the first business started by the Frank and Vandekamp families and began a partnership that continues to this day, now going on to 4 generations. The man standing at the rear is Theodore. My mother Henrietta is seated at the window, and her sister Marion is standing at the door. The sign below the window was another one of Lawrence's brainstorms. The motto, "Made clean, kept clean, sold clean," was very appealing to shoppers of the day and helped the store become successful. To reinforce the Dutch theme, my mother designed the blue and white costumes she and Marion wore. Things went swimmingly for Lawrence and Theodore's store, and in the next few years additional stores were opened. They added salted nuts to the line and then cookies. The cookies sold so well that they decided to go into the bakery business, and they renamed their company Vandekamp's Holland Dutch Bakers. Los Angeles was growing by leaps and bounds, sprawling out from the center, and that sparked another idea of my dad's. Why not create a store in the shape of a windmill? Holland, he knew, was a country full of windmills. Lawrence hired a young movie set designer named Harry Oliver to design a Dutch windmill. Oliver did a great job. Also in later years, he would become the first Hollywood set designer to win an Oscar. His idea for Vandekamp's windmill store was right in line with the times. Restaurants and stores in the shape of derbies, hot dogs, and coffee cups were springing up all over Southern California. Eastern critics berated this concept as another of Hollywood's crazy ideas. The bakery plant was in downtown Los Angeles. The Vandekamp's Dutch theme was carried out even behind the scenes, with the hats worn by the bakers. Lawrence and Theodore wanted their products to be of the highest quality. They respected the buying public and firmly believed the average customer was smart enough to tell a good product from a poor one. Long before the days of health inspections, Lawrence was a stickler for having a spotlessly clean and safe plant. As Lawrence began hiring employees, he gave a lot of thought to the standards and ethics he wanted for his and Theodore's business. He had a lot of respect for the workers they hired. Right from the start, he insisted that everyone at Vandekamp's, from the highest to the lowest, including himself and Theodore, refer to themselves and each other as co-workers. This was almost 100 years ago, and Lawrence's idea was revolutionary for its time. They wanted to let their employees know what they did was meaningful and important, and they wanted them to feel a sense of personal pride in their jobs. The workplace atmosphere should be one of team spirit and mutual respect. Van de Kamp's continued to grow and succeed, opening many bakery stores, some of which were windmills in the fast-growing suburbs. And in 1918, our very first restaurant, a coffee shop in downtown Los Angeles. Here you can see another of my father's ideas. He had the counters designed to incorporate a glassed-in shelf that displayed the baked goods on the menu. It was a successful operation, but only lasted 3 years before they lost their lease and were forced to close. Henrietta missed her family back in Milwaukee and had been entreating her parents to move to California. And in 1920, they did. They settled in Pasadena, and my grandfather Henry bought himself a touring sedan. On Sunday afternoons, he and my grandmother Sophia would take the kids out on drives in the countryside. On one of those outings, they found themselves on a country road, Tropico Avenue, which later would be renamed Los Feliz Boulevard, the major highway from Pasadena leading through Atwater Village into Hollywood. As they drove along, the for sale signs on a tract of land caught my grandfather's eye. He stopped to inquire about it. Mr. Van de Kamp, within 5 years this will be the center of Los Angeles, the salesman told him. This area is building up quickly. If you invest, it will pay off in no time. My grandfather fell for the salesman's spiel and bought a corner lot. A year passed and my grandfather's lot did not become the center of Los Angeles. In fact, it stood empty and idle, and Henry began to worry that he'd made a mistake. He liked my dad. He thought my dad had a good head for business, and he took Lawrence into his confidence. He asked him what he thought he should do. My father said, "Why don't you let me build a little roadside restaurant on the lot?" Henry agreed, and that was the start of our restaurant business. My father